Roblox has been fighting against exploiters since its early days, constantly adapting to new threats, as hackers and scripters developed more advanced methods to break the game's security. In the earliest days of Roblox, around 2006 to 2010, exploits were relatively simple and mostly involved client-side manipulation. Players would use tools like Cheat Engine to modify in-game values such as movement speed, gravity, and jump height. This allowed for basic exploits like infinite jumping, flying, and teleporting. However, because Roblox's security was still in its infancy, these exploits were common and hard to stop. At this time, games were mostly client-dependent, meaning any changes a player made to their own game client would often replicate to the server, allowing them to affect other players. The exploit scene was relatively small, consisting mostly of curious players experimenting with memory editors and minor cheats, rather than full-scale hacking. As Roblox grew in popularity, so did the exploit community. By the early 2010s, DLL injection became one of the most popular methods for exploiting. This involved injecting external code into the Roblox client, allowing exploiters to run their own Lua scripts inside the game. This opened the door for much more powerful exploits, including remote function manipulation, where players could directly alter game mechanics. Around this time, the first major exploit tools appeared, including programs like ProtoSmasher, SynapseX, and JJSploit. These tools allowed users to execute scripts that could do almost anything, from generating infinite in-game currency to bypassing anti-cheat systems and even stealing entire game assets. The ability to manipulate remote events and functions meant exploiters could give themselves admin powers in games, create invisible walls, spawn items, and even crash servers. This was a major problem for developers, as it became nearly impossible to keep games fair. Roblox took steps to counter these exploits by introducing security updates, but each time they patched one vulnerability, exploiters would find another. One of the biggest changes to Roblox's security came with the introduction of filtering enabled, FE, around 2012 to 2013, which later became mandatory in 2018. Before FE, a player could make changes on the client side, and those changes would affect the entire game. For example, a hacker could give themselves infinite health or duplicate items, and everyone in the server would see the effects. Filtering enabled prevented this by ensuring that only the server could make important changes, meaning client-side exploits would no longer work unless they could manipulate server-side code. While this was a huge step forward in security, it was not a perfect solution. Skilled exploiters found ways to bypass it by manipulating remote events, allowing them to trick the server into executing commands on their behalf. This led to the rise of remote function logging, where exploiters could intercept the communication between the client and server, analyze the data being sent, and then use that information to create their own scripts that mimicked real player actions. From 2015 to 2020, the exploit scene exploded in popularity. Exploiting was no longer something only skilled programmers could do. Anyone with access to the right tools could download a script executor and start cheating in seconds. Paid exploit services like SynapseX became extremely popular, offering powerful script execution capabilities for a small fee. The rise of script hubs also made exploiting more accessible, allowing users to run pre-made scripts without needing any programming knowledge. Some of the most notorious script hubs included Infinite Yield, DarkDex, and AzTupHub, which provided tools for teleportation, God mode, auto-farming, and even game-breaking cheats like nuking entire servers. This era saw a massive surge in game-breaking exploits, causing frustration for legitimate players and game developers alike. Game asset stealing also became a huge issue, with some exploiters using scripts to dump entire games, including scripts, models, and UI elements, and then re-uploading them as their own. This led to countless stolen games flooding the platform. making it difficult for original developers to protect their work. As Roblox continued to expand, the company became more aggressive in its fight against exploits. In 2023, they made one of their biggest moves yet by acquiring Bifron, a company specializing in anti-tamper technology. This marked a major turning point in the war against exploiters. Bifron introduced Hyperion, a kernel-level anti-cheat system designed to prevent unauthorized modifications to the Roblox client. Unlike previous security measures, which focused mostly on patching individual exploits, Hyperion operated at a much deeper level, making it significantly harder to inject code into the game. This immediately disrupted the exploit community, rendering many popular script executors completely useless. Synapse X, which had been one of the most powerful exploit tools for years, was forced to shut down temporarily, while its developers scrambled to find a workaround. Other exploits, such as Cronel and Electron, were also affected, leading to a massive decline in casual exploiting. However, while Hyperion made things much more difficult, it did not eliminate exploiting entirely. Private exploits tools developed by small groups and shared only with trusted members became the new standard. Instead of releasing exploits to the public, experienced hackers started keeping their methods secret to avoid detection. Some exploiters turned to kernel-level bypasses, using techniques like virtualization and hardware-based exploits, which are much harder for anti-cheat systems to detect. These methods are far more complex and require a deep understanding of computer security, meaning only the most dedicated exploiters can use them. Additionally, some exploiters have begun experimenting with AI-assisted script obfuscation, making it more difficult for Roblox to detect malicious code. Despite these ongoing challenges, Roblox continues to improve its security. Bifron's technology is regularly updated, and Roblox actively monitors exploit forums and communities to stay ahead of new threats. Developers have also stepped up their own security measures by implementing server-side anti-cheat systems that detect suspicious activity and ban exploiters automatically. Features like server authoritative physics and network ownership restrictions have made it harder for hackers to manipulate game mechanics. Some developers even use honeypot traps, which place hidden objects in the game that only an exploiter would interact with, allowing them to be identified and banned. Today, while exploiting is still possible, it is far less common than it was in the past. The days of freely available exploits like JJSploit and Synapse X dominating Roblox are largely over, and the majority of casual players can now enjoy games without constantly encountering hackers. However, the cat-and-mouse game between Roblox and exploiters continues. As long as there are people determined to break the system, new exploits will always emerge. But with Hyperion and continuous security updates, Roblox has made it significantly harder to cheat, ensuring a more fair and enjoyable experience for the majority of players.